Captain Jung Kim stood tall on the bridge of the Earth Alliance vessel Serenity *, his dark eyes fixed on the main screen where an alien world grew larger by the minute. This was humanity's first meeting with the Bred Commonwealth. 3 minutes to orbit, Captain, said the pilot. June nodded. Send word to our team. We meet in the shuttle bay in 10 minutes. The Vesprids had been watching humans for months before they sent their message. They were curious about these strange mammals who had spread across the stars. Now, after weeks of careful messages back and forth, it was time to meet face to face. Minji Park waited in the shuttle bay. The ship's top scientist checked her gear one last time. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from excitement. Nervous, Doctor? June asked as he approached. Excited, Minji said with a smile. We're about to meet an alien race that can grow living ships. Their skills with making new life forms are beyond anything we've done. Li joined them, leading a golden-furred dog on a leash. The dog walked calmly at his side. Why did you bring Dubu? June asked with a frown. Diplomatic gift, Ta said. Plus, if these bugs are as smart as we think, they'll want to see how we work with Earth animals. June wasn't sure about bringing a dog to an alien meeting, but he trusted Ta's judgment with animals. The shuttle trip down was smooth. They landed in a huge bay made of something that looked like amber. It glowed from within, lighting the space with a warm yellow glow. Stay close, June told his team of 5 humans. Remember your training. The shuttle door opened, and a wave of warm, spicy air hit them. It smelled like cinnamon and something else, something alien. A group of 8 Vesprids waited for them. They stood on 4 back legs, with 2 front limbs that ended in hands with 3 fingers each. Their bodies were covered in a smooth, hard shell that shone like polished wood. Their heads had large, black eyes and moving mouthparts. The largest Vesprid stepped forward. I am Matriarch Sitholic. We welcome humans to our world. Her voice came through their translators with a slight buzz. June bowed slightly. I am Captain Jung Kim of the Earth Alliance. We are honored by your welcome. Just as he finished speaking, a loud hiss filled the room. From the shadows behind the Vesprids, 3 massive creatures emerged. They looked like giant scorpions, but with more legs and eyes. Each was the size of a small car. Curved spines covered their backs, and they clicked their claw-like front legs against the floor. Dubu the dog pressed against Ta's leg, but didn't bark or growl. Do not fear, said Sitholic. Our guards will not attack unless we command it. She made a clicking sound, and the creatures backed up slightly, but they kept their eyes locked on the humans. These are your pets? Minji asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. Sitholic's mouthparts moved in what might have been amusement. Not pets. Tools. We grow them for protection. They know fear, and they cause fear. This is their purpose. June noticed how the creatures trembled slightly when Sitholic moved her hand. They feared her even as they obeyed. We have brought one of our animals as well, June said, nodding to Ta. Ta stepped forward with Dubu. The golden retriever sat calmly beside him, watching the aliens with curious eyes. This small thing is your guard? Sitholic asked. All the Vesprids leaned forward slightly, their antennae twitching. Not a guard, Ta said. A friend. The Vesprids buzzed among themselves, clearly confused by this idea. Come, Sitholic said after a moment. We have prepared a place for you. We have much to discuss about our 2 kinds. As they followed the Vesprids deeper into the living structure, Jum couldn't help but notice how the massive guard creatures watched Dubu with what looked like confusion. They were bred to cause fear, but this small, soft earth animal showed none. June had a feeling this would not be the last surprise of their visit. The meeting room was like nothing the humans had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently with a soft blue light. The floor was smooth and warm under their feet. Our buildings grow, Sitholic explained, seeing Minji's wide eyes. We shape them from living matter. Minji couldn't help herself. The biological engineering required for that is amazing. The Vesprid's antennae twitched in what might have been pride. This is simple work for us. We have shaped life for 10,000 years. The humans were seated at a low table. The Vesprids arranged themselves around the other side, their 4 back legs folded under them. 2 of the giant guard creatures remained in the room, standing silently in the corners, their many eyes watching every move. "We are curious," said a smaller Vesprid that Sith-Alec introduced as Kizit, a young diplomat. "Your vessels are dead metal. Why do you not grow your ships as we do?" "Humans took a different path," Jun explained. "We build with materials, not life." "Inefficient," buzzed another Vesprid. "Life adapts. Life repairs itself." Tali sat with Dubu at his feet. The dog was calm but alert. "We work with life in different ways," he said. "We partner with it." Sith-Alec's head tilted. "Explain this concept." Minji jumped in. "Captain, may I demonstrate?" Jun nodded, curious what she had in mind. "Vesprids shape life through changing its form," Minji said. "Humans often work with animals as they are, building bonds of trust." She nodded to Ta. Ta stood up and pulled a small ball from his pocket. "Dubu," he said softly. The golden retriever's ears perked up immediately. "This is Dubu. His kind has lived alongside humans for thousands of years, not as guards, but as helpers and friends." Tai tossed the ball across the room. "Fetch." Dubu bounded after the ball, grabbed it in his mouth, and brought it back to Tai, tail wagging happily. The Vesprids clicked and buzzed among themselves. "What purpose does this serve?" asked Kizit, clearly confused. Tai smiled. "It builds trust. Watch." He made Dubu sit, lie down, roll over, and stand on his back legs. With each trick, the Vesprids leaned forward more, their antennae waving. "But you have not changed its body to do these things," said Sith-Alec. "You have not made its legs stronger or its mind more obedient." "No," Minji explained. "We teach, not remake. Our relationship is based on mutual benefit." Ta nodded. "Dubu works with me because I care for him. I feed him by hand. I give him love and safety. In return, he gives loyalty and help. How do you control it if it feels no fear?" asked a Vesprid scientist, pointing at the guard creatures. "Our servants obey because they must, because fear is in their blood." Tay reached down and scratched behind Dubu's ears. The dog leaned into his touch with obvious pleasure. "He obeys because he wants to please me. Because we're connected." "Fascinating," clicked Sith-Alec. "But surely such methods are less reliable than our own." "Perhaps in some ways," Jun said diplomatically. "But we found value in diversity of thought and will, even in our animal companions." One of the Vesprids approached cautiously. "May I touch it?" Ta nodded. "Dubu, say hello." The dog sat patiently as the Vesprid extended a 3-fingered hand. When the alien carefully touched his golden fur, Dubu responded by gently licking the Vesprid's hand. The Vesprid jumped back, antennae standing straight up in surprise. "It tasted me." "That's how dogs show friendship," Minji explained, trying not to smile. "Very strange friendship," muttered the Vesprid, but it moved closer again, more curious now than afraid. In the corner, the guard creatures shifted restlessly, as if disturbed by this unusual interaction. "Perhaps," Sith-Alec said thoughtfully, "there is something to learn from your methods. Tomorrow we will show you our creation chambers. You can see how we shape life for our needs." Jun nodded, but he noticed how the matriarch's eyes kept returning to Dubu, who now lay peacefully at Ta's feet. The concept of companionship without fear seemed to trouble her deeply. The next day, the human team followed Sith-Alec through winding passages of her living palace. The walls pulsed with different colors as they walked. Minji took notes on her tablet, her eyes wide with wonder. "Our creation chambers are sacred," Sith-Alec explained. Few outsiders have seen them. They entered a vast room filled with large, clear pods. Inside each pod floated different creatures in various stages of growth. Some looked like the guard monsters but smaller. Others were completely different. Some with wings, some with many eyes, some with no eyes at all. "We shape life to serve every need," said Kizit proudly. "These will be workers. These will be hunters. These will clean our cities." June looked troubled. "Do they all have minds? Can they think?" Sithalek's antennae twitched. "Only as much as they need for their tasks. Too much thought leads to disobedience." Tug kept Dubu close to his side. The dog seemed uneasy in this place. "And these?" Minji pointed to a row of pods where creatures that looked like the guards were being grown. "Our protectors," said Sithalek. "From birth, they learn to fear us and to be feared by others. Fear keeps order." As they walked between the rows of pods, Kizit moved closer to one to show the humans a small flying creature. His arm brushed against a control panel. A warning sound buzzed. "Be careful," warned an older Vesprid scientist. "The growth fluids are delicate." But it was too late. Kizit's arm had cut itself on a sharp edge of the panel. Green liquid, Vesprid blood, dripped onto the floor. The effect was immediate. The guard creatures in the room let out high-pitched screams. Their bodies tensed, and their spine-covered backs raised up. The smell of Vesprid blood had triggered them. "Stay back," shouted Sithalek to the humans. The two guard creatures moved with shocking speed. They rushed toward the group, their front claws clicking wildly. One of them knocked Kizit to the ground. The human team froze. But Todd didn't. He whistled sharply. Dubu sprang forward, placing himself between the humans and the advancing guards. But he didn't attack. Instead, he stood firm, his body tense but controlled. The guard creatures hesitated, confused by this small animal that showed no fear. "Call off your animal." Sithalek buzzed with worry. "It will be killed." But Ta shook his head. "He's not attacking. He's protecting." The guards moved closer to Dubu, their claws raised. The dog held his ground, growling low in his throat. "Dubu, stay," Ta said calmly. The dog obeyed, neither advancing nor retreating. Sithalek made a series of sharp clicking sounds. The guard creatures hesitated, caught between their instinct to attack at the smell of blood and their training to obey the matriarch. "I don't understand," Sithalek said. "Why doesn't your creature attack? It smells blood. It should be in a killing frenzy." "Because he wasn't made to kill," June explained. "He was raised to protect." Vesprid security forces rushed into the room, their own weapons ready. They surrounded the humans, clicking threats. "Wait." Minji stepped forward. "This is a misunderstanding. Look at our dog. Is he attacking?" "No. We mean no harm." The room was tense. The guard creatures still hissed, ready to strike. The security forces had the humans surrounded. "Dubu, come," Ta said softly. To everyone's surprise, the dog backed up slowly, never turning his back on the guard creatures, and returned to Ta's side. "Impossible," whispered a Vesprid scientist. "Such control without fear." Sithalek stared at the humans and their dog with new eyes. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we have much to learn from each other." The guards were led away. Kizit was helped up, his injury minor. "I believe," said June carefully, "we should continue our discussions somewhere less sensitive." As they left the creation chambers, Minji noticed how the Vesprids looked at Dubu differently now, with something that might have been respect. The humans were taken to a round room with a high ceiling. The walls glowed with soft orange light. Vesprid guards stood at every door, watching the humans closely. "Your animal is very interesting," Sithalek said, once everyone was seated. "I did not think such control was possible without fear training." Minji saw a chance to explain. "May I show you something more about how we work with earth animals?" Sithalek nodded, her antennae twitching with curiosity. Minji stood up and moved to the center of the room. Ta, may I borrow Dubu for a demonstration? Tad led Dubu to the center of the room. The dog sat calmly beside him, his warm brown eyes watching the Vesprids without fear. On Earth, humans and dogs have lived together for over 15,000 years, Minji explained. We did not create them with science. Instead, we built trust over many generations. But how do you control them? Asked Kizit, touching his bandaged arm. Our creatures need the fear chemical in their bodies to obey. We use something different, Minji said. Tai, please show them. Ta nodded and took a small treat from his pocket. Dubu, sit. The dog sat immediately. Lie down. Dubu lay down. Roll over. The dog rolled onto his back, then back to his feet. Speak. Dubu gave a single friendly bark. The Vesprids buzzed with surprise. One of the guard creatures hissed in response to the bark, but a sharp click from Sithelek made it quiet down. Now watch this, Ta said. He placed the treat on Dubu's nose. Wait. Dubu froze. The treat balanced on his nose. His eyes looked up at it, but he didn't move. He wants to eat it, Tai explained, but he trusts me to tell him when. This is control through hunger then, said a Vesprid scientist. No, Ta shook his head. It's trust. Dubu, okay. With a quick movement, Dubu tossed the treat up and caught it in his mouth, then looked up at Ta with happy eyes. Good boy, Ta said, petting the dog's head. Dubu's tail wagged happily. I think I understand, said Sithelek slowly. Your creature obeys because it wants to please you. Yes, said June, and because Ta cares for him. They work together because both benefit. The Vesprids talked among themselves in buzzing clicks. This is very strange to us, Sithelek finally said. Our way has always been to make creatures that must obey. We put fear in their very blood. May I ask something? Minji said. What happens if your creatures are not afraid? The room went quiet. They would kill us, said Kizit simply. That is why we must keep them afraid. June looked troubled. So you live with creatures that would destroy you if they could. It is efficient, Sithelek said. Fear is reliable. But trust can be stronger, Ta said. He put his hand in Dubu's mouth. The Vesprids gasped. Dubu just held still, letting Ta's hand rest between his teeth without biting. Dubu could hurt me, Ta explained, removing his hand. His teeth are sharp, but he won't. Not ever. Because we trust each other. Fascinating, said one of the Vesprid scientists. But surely this method takes too long to be useful. Our creatures are ready to serve as soon as they grow. Some things are worth the time, Jun said. Building trust creates a different kind of strength. Sithelek stood up suddenly. I have decided. We must test this idea. A challenge between our ways. What kind of challenge? Jun asked carefully. Your best creature against our best creature. A test of skill and obedience. Sithelek's eyes gleamed. If you win, we will discuss sharing some of our biotechnology with Earth. If we win, you must leave our space. The humans looked at each other with worry. Dubu was a good dog, but he was just a pet, not made for competitions. What kind of test? Minji asked. A simple one, said Sithelek. Our creatures will each need to find something hidden and bring it back. Through dangers, through problems, we will see whose way is truly better. June stood up. We need time to discuss this. Of course, Sithelek said. You have until morning to decide. Choose your champion carefully, humans. Back in their quarters, the human team gathered to discuss the challenge. This is a bad idea, said Lin, the security officer. Their creatures are built for combat. Dubu is just a pet. I agree, Jun said. It's too risky. Minji paced the room. But think about what we could learn from their biotechnology. The medical advances alone would be worth it. Ta sat on the floor next to Dubu, gently petting the dog's golden fur. Dubu isn't the right choice for this challenge, he said quietly. Then we decline, Jun decided. The risk is too high. Wait, Ta looked up. I said Dubu isn't right for this. But I think I know who is. Who? Asked Minji. Haru. Everyone turned to look at the small black and white border collie sleeping in the corner of the room. Ta had brought 2 dogs on the mission. Dubu for therapy and comfort, and Haru for work. Haru is a search and rescue dog, Ta explained. Finding things and bringing them back is exactly what she's trained for. Jun looked doubtful. Against their battle monsters. Their creatures are strong and scary, Ta said. But they only know how to follow orders out of fear. Haru solves problems. She thinks. It's still dangerous, Lin warned. Maybe, said Ta. But I believe in her. After much discussion, they agreed. Haru would represent Earth in the challenge. The next morning, they met the Vesprids in a large open area outside the living palace. The space looked like a maze made of strange plants and rocks. This is our testing ground, Sith Alec explained. In the center is a small box with a glowing stone. The first creature to bring back the stone wins. She pointed to a massive creature waiting at her side. It looked like the guard monsters but bigger and meaner. Its body was covered in sharp spines, and its many eyes glowed with a red light. This is our champion, Sith Alec said proudly. The perfect predator. We grew it specially for difficult tasks. Its mind knows only obedience and victory. The humans tried not to show their worry. Next to the perfect predator, Haru looked tiny. The border collie stood calmly at Ta's side, watching everything with bright, intelligent eyes. This small thing is your champion? Kizit asked with surprise. Yes, said Ta confidently. This is Haru. She's a search and rescue dog. The Vesprids buzzed with what sounded like laughter. The test has dangers, warned Sith Alec. There are traps and problems to solve. Haru is ready, Ta said, kneeling beside his dog. He spoke softly to her, scratching behind her ears. The Vesprids watched with curiosity. Their own handler stood far from the perfect predator, giving commands through a small device that made the creature twitch in pain when it disobeyed. The creatures will start here. Sith Alec pointed to 2 markers. When the sound plays, they will begin. Ta led Haru to her starting position. The perfect predator was placed at the other marker, hissing and scratching at the ground. Ready, said Sith Alec. A loud buzz sounded across the field. The perfect predator shot forward like a bullet, smashing through the first barrier of plants. It moved with amazing speed and power. Haru took off too, but differently. She paused at the entrance to the maze, sniffing the air. Then she darted to the right, taking a path that wound around rather than through the barriers. What is it doing? Asked Kizit. It's taking the long way. She's thinking, Minji explained. Finding the best path, not just the most direct one. The perfect predator continued to crash through obstacles, destroying everything in its path. But soon it reached a section where the path split into 5 different directions. It hesitated, confused by the choices. Meanwhile, Haru had already worked her way through a series of narrow passages, her nose to the ground, following the scent of the target. Interesting, said Sith Alec, watching the screens that showed both creatures' progress. Your animal is small but clever. Yes, said Jun with growing pride. That's the human way. We work with nature, not against it. The race had only just begun, but already the differences in approach were clear to see. The perfect predator stood at the 5-way split, its many eyes scanning each path. After a moment, it made a harsh clicking sound and charged down the middle path. Wrong choice, said Sith Alec with a hiss of frustration. She pressed a button on her control device. On the screen, the perfect predator stopped suddenly, its body shaking as if in pain. It turned around and came back to try another path. You punish it for mistakes? Minji asked, watching with concern. Of course, replied Sith Alec. How else would it learn? Meanwhile, Haru had reached her own decision point. The small border collie sniffed each path carefully, then chose the one furthest to the right. "That's also wrong," said Kizit, watching the map display. "The target is down the second path." "Watch," Ta said with quiet confidence. Haru trotted down her chosen path. Soon she came to what looked like a dead end. A wall of thick plants blocked the way, but instead of turning back, she began to dig beneath the plants. "What is it doing?" asked a Bred scientist. "Finding another way," Tai explained. "Border collies are problem solvers." Sure enough, Haru soon squeezed under the plants and emerged on the other side, which connected to the correct path from another angle. "Impressive," admitted Sithalik. On the other side of the course, the perfect predator was systematically checking each wrong path, receiving a punishment shock each time it made a mistake. Its movements were becoming more frantic, less controlled. "It's getting angry," Kizit observed. "Good. Anger makes it stronger." "But less careful," Jun pointed out. The screen showed both creatures making progress through the maze, but in very different ways. The perfect predator smashed through barriers, while Haru found ways around or under obstacles. "Your creature is slow," said a Bred guard. "But she doesn't waste energy," Lin replied. "And she's not getting hurt." Indeed, the perfect predator was now covered in small cuts and scrapes from crashing through sharp plants and rocks. But it kept going, driven by fear of punishment and the orders programmed into its mind. As both creatures neared the center of the maze, new challenges appeared. A section of ground collapsed under the perfect predator, dropping it into a pit of sticky mud. It roared in anger, using its powerful legs to jump out. When Haru reached the same area, she stopped at the edge, sensing the danger. She walked carefully around the pit, testing each step before putting her weight down. "She can sense the trap," Minji said with pride. "Because she's not bred to attack first," Tai added. "She's bred to think." The perfect predator reached another obstacle, a narrow gap between two rock walls. It was too big to fit through. With a screech of frustration, it began to smash the rocks with its front claws. "It will take time to break through," said Sithalik, "but nothing will stop it." When Haru reached a similar passage, she simply squeezed through the narrow space, her smaller size an advantage now. "Size isn't everything," Jun said with a smile. The Vespreds buzzed among themselves, clearly surprised by how well the small earth animal was doing. "We are approaching the central chamber," Sithalik announced. "Soon we will see which creature reaches the prize first." The screen showed both Haru and the perfect predator closing in on the center of the maze from different directions. The test was far from over. Tai watched with worried eyes. He believed in Haru's skills, but the perfect predator was incredibly strong and driven by fear and pain to succeed. Would Haru's intelligence and training be enough? "She can do it," Minji whispered to him. "Trust her." Ta nodded. That was the whole point, wasn't it? Trust versus fear, which would prove stronger in the end. Both creatures were close to the center now. The humans and Vespreds watched the screens with great interest. No one was talking anymore. The room was silent except for the soft buzzing of Vespred breathing. The perfect predator reached a wide wet area. It was like a small swamp with bubbling mud and strange plants. The creature hesitated at the edge, testing the ground with one leg. The mud seemed deep. On the other side of the swamp was a small platform. On that platform sat a box with the glowing stone. "The prize," said Sithalik. "Now we will see which approach is better." The perfect predator began to wade into the mud. Its strong legs pushed through, but each step was slow and difficult. The mud came up to its middle body, slowing it down. Haru reached a similar swamp area from another direction. The small dog looked at the mud, then at the platform with the prize. She walked along the edge, looking for a better way across. "Your creature delays," said Kizit. "Ours pushes forward no matter what." "Haru is looking for a smarter path," Tai replied. The perfect predator was halfway across the swamp now. Suddenly, the ground under it began to sink. The mud was getting deeper, The creature struggled, its legs kicking hard. "It's a trap," said Sithalik. "The swamp gets deeper in the middle." The perfect predator let out a roar of anger. It began to thrash wildly, trying to free itself. But this only made it sink faster. Soon, only its upper body and head were above the mud. Meanwhile, Haru had found something, a fallen log at the edge of the swamp. She grabbed it with her teeth and began to pull. The log was long enough to reach partly across the mud. "What is it doing?" asked a Bred scientist. "Making a bridge," Minji explained. With great effort, Haru pulled the log into position. Then she carefully walked onto it. The log sank a little but still floated on top of the mud. Haru moved slowly, keeping her balance. When she reached the end of the log, she was still some distance from the platform. But she had seen something else, rocks ticking up from the mud. With a small jump, she landed on the first rock. "Amazing," whispered Kizit. Haru hopped from rock to rock, getting closer to the platform. The perfect predator was still stuck, fighting against the mud that held it tight. "Help it," ordered Sithalik to her handlers. "Use the pain control to make it focus." The handlers pressed buttons on their devices. The perfect predator screamed in pain, then began to move with new purpose. It stretched its long front legs toward solid ground, pulling itself forward inch by inch. Haru reached the platform first. She picked up the box carefully in her mouth and looked back toward the edge of the swamp, planning her return journey. But then a loud rumbling sound filled the air. The ground began to shake. "What's happening?" June asked with alarm. Sithalik's antennae stood straight up. "Gas pocket explosion. Sometimes the swamp gas builds up and—" She didn't finish. On the screen, they saw part of the swamp erupt in bubbles and fire. The platform with the prize began to sink. Haru, still holding the box, jumped from the crumbling platform to a rock. But the rocks were sinking too. Everything was falling apart. The perfect predator let out a terrible cry as the mud around it began to boil with hot gas. "Get them out," shouted Jun. "This isn't a test anymore. It's dangerous." "We cannot," said Sithalik. "The course is sealed during testing. It is the way of the challenge." "But they'll die," Minji cried. Ta stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "Then I'm going in after Haru." "That is not allowed," said Kizit. "I don't care what's allowed," Tay replied. "I won't let her face this alone." "Open the doors," Jun demanded, his voice firm. "We need to get them out now." Sithalik hesitated, her antennae twitching with uncertainty. This has never happened before. The test must run its course. "Your creature is dying too," Minji pointed out. "Do you care so little for it?" The Bred handlers looked at each other. One spoke up. "The perfect predator cost many resources to create. It would be a waste to lose it." "Then help us," Ta pleaded. After a moment, Sithalik nodded. "Open the emergency doors." A section of wall slid open. Ta ran through immediately, with Jun and Lin close behind him. The Bred handlers followed more slowly. Inside, the air was hot and smelled like rotten eggs. The gas made their eyes water. Ahead they could see the swamp bubbling and smoking. Parts of it were on fire. "Haru," Ta called. "Haru, where are you?" A weak bark answered him. Through the smoke, they saw Haru standing on a small piece of rock that was still above the mud. She still held the box in her mouth, refusing to drop it even in danger. "Good girl. Stay there." Ta looked around frantically for a way to reach her. The perfect predator was still stuck in the mud, thrashing weakly now. Its handlers stood at the edge of the swamp, clicking to each other in distress. "Why don't they help it?" Minji asked, arriving behind the others. "They are not trained for rescue," Sithalik explained, joining them. "They give orders only." "Well, we are trained for rescue," Jun said. He pointed to a fallen tree nearby. "Let's use that as a bridge." The humans worked quickly to push the tree toward the mud. It was heavy, but with all of them pushing, they managed to make it fall across part of the swamp. "I'm going across," Ta said. He began to carefully walk along the tree trunk. The perfect predator let out a pitiful cry. It was sinking deeper, the hot mud now reaching its head. Its handlers made no move to help it. "Aren't you going to save your creature?" Lin asked the Vesprids. "It failed the test," one handler replied. "We will make another, better one." Ta had almost reached Haru. The rock she stood on was starting to sink. "Jump to me, girl," he called. Haru gathered her strength and leaped toward Ta. He caught her in his arms, nearly falling but managing to keep his balance on the tree trunk. "I've got you," he whispered, holding her tight. "I've got you." Something in this moment seemed to affect Sithalik. She stepped forward suddenly. "Save the perfect predator too," she ordered her handlers. They stared at her in shock. "But matriarch," it failed. "It is protocolto." "No," Sithalik's voice was firm. "We have been wrong. These humans risk themselves for their creatures. Should we do less?" The handlers hesitated, then began looking for ways to reach the trapped creature. But they had no experience with rescue operations and moved uncertainly. Tai made it back to solid ground with Haru safe in his arms. He handed her to Minji, then turned to look at the struggling perfect predator. "We need to help them," he said to June. June nodded. "Lin, find something we can use as a rope." The humans quickly organized a rescue plan. Lin found some vines that could work as ropes. They tied them together and threw one end toward the perfect predator. "Make it grab the rope," June called to the handlers. The handlers used their control devices to direct the creature. At first it was too confused by pain and fear to understand, but finally it grasped the vine with its front claws. "Pull," June shouted. Everyone pulled together, humans and Vesprids working side by side. Slowly, the perfect predator began to move through the mud toward solid ground. Another explosion rocked the ground. More gas and fire erupted from the swamp. "We need to get out of here now," Lin shouted. With one final massive effort, they pulled the perfect predator free. It collapsed on the ground, covered in mud but alive. "Go, go," June urged everyone toward the exit. They ran, the humans helping the injured perfect predator along with its handlers. Just as they reached the door, the entire swamp erupted behind them in a massive explosion of gas and fire. Back in the safety of the viewing room, everyone was quiet. The Vesprids cleaned mud from the perfect predator's wounds. The large creature lay still, breathing heavily but alive. Tai sat with Haru in his lap, checking her for injuries. The small border collie was tired but unhurt. She still held the box with the glowing stone in her mouth. "She won't let go of it," Ta said with a small laugh. "She knows she completed her mission." Sithalik approached slowly. "Your creature is very loyal." "She is," Tai agreed. "Haru, drop." The dog finally released the box, and Ta handed it to Sithalik. "It seems your way has merit," the matriarch admitted. "Our creature had more strength, but yours had more heart." June stepped forward. "I think we both learned something today. Your biological engineering is amazing, but perhaps there are different ways to work with other species." Sithalik's antennae moved thoughtfully. "Yes, I have been thinking about why you went back for your creature. We would never do that." "Because to us, they aren't just tools," Minji explained. "They're partners." The perfect predator made a low sound of pain as its wounds were cleaned. One of the handlers reached out to comfort it, then pulled back in confusion at his own action. "What if we tried your way?" asked Kizet. "Could fear-bred creatures learn trust?" "I believe they could," Ta said. He walked over to the perfect predator, with Haru following close behind. The huge creature hissed weakly, but didn't move to attack. Very slowly, Tai reached out his hand. Everyone in the room went still. The perfect predator watched with its many eyes, clearly unsure what to do. "It's okay," Ta said softly. "No one will hurt you now." His hand gently touched the creature's head. At first, it flinched, but when no pain came, it relaxed slightly. "See," Ta said, "trust begins with kindness." To everyone's surprise, Haru walked up to the perfect predator. The small dog sniffed at the giant creature, then sat down beside it, showing no fear. "Impossible," whispered a Vesprid scientist. "Our creatures and yours should be enemies. Only if we teach them to be," Jun replied. Sithalik was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice firm with decision. "The contest is declared a draw. Both creatures reached the prize. Both survived because of cooperation." She turned to Jun. "We will establish the treaty as discussed, but I wish to add something more. A biological exchange program. Your scientists can learn our engineering. And perhaps our handlers can learn your methods of trust." "We would be honored," Jun said with a bow. Later, as the humans prepared to return to their ship, Sithalik came to say goodbye. She carried a small container. "A gift," she said, handing it to Minji. "The first of our creations born without fear chemicals in its blood. It will need teachers who understand trust." Inside the container was a tiny version of the guard creatures, no bigger than a mouse. It looked up with curious eyes. "We will care for it well," Minji promised. As they walked back to their shuttle, Tai carried Haru in his arms. The tired dog had done more than win a contest. She had changed how two species might work together. "You know," Jun said as they boarded the shuttle, "in all our plans for meeting aliens, we never thought our greatest ambassador would have 4 legs and a wagging tail." Ta smiled, scratching Haru's ears. "Maybe that's what humans do best. We don't just explore space, we bring our friendships with us." From the shuttle window, they could see young Vesprid scientists gathered around Sithalik. She was holding something in her hands, what looked like small treats, and at her feet stood a young earth puppy, one they had brought as a gift, wagging its tail as it looked up at its new alien friend. 2 different species, learning from each other, creatures bred for fear, now being fed by hand. A new kind of understanding had begun.